This podcast is for informational and discussion purposes only and reflects personal experiences and opinions of our guests. It is not legal, medical, or mental health advice and does not create any professional relationship between you and I. Family court outcomes vary, and listeners should seek qualified professionals for guidance specific to their situation. This podcast may discuss sensitive topics, including emotional distress and family separation. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, dads, moms, supporters, family, and friends. It's Rachel K., host of Deadbeat Dad by Design. And on this wonderful Monday, we are at episode 12. I'm super excited about this one. We have a really great guest that is coming on. She is a part of the shared parenting movement. She's fighting for fathers' rights, not only because she has seen it in friends and family, but she's also going through it with her personal relationship and supporting her husband. And so the really cool thing about this girl is that she's not just talking about it. She's actually out there doing things. She is making waves, she is making things happen, and she is joining the forces, boots on the ground and doing the work. And so I'm so excited to have her on today. Everybody that has been on this podcast so far, it's just been an absolute blessing. So I hope you guys will stay through the intro. I always do my little intro, and then she will be on afterwards. It's a really great one. This one is called Scorned, Jealous, and Unchecked When an Ex Turns Destructive. So I think it's one that a lot of people out there can relate to. And it's going to be a very interesting one for us to talk about how this affects the children the most. And so, as always, if you're a mom going through a similar situation, this is a safe space for you. You are welcome here. We love you. We support you. We want to hear from you. We do lean towards the fathers just because historically, we all know that dads are the ones that go through these situations more often than not. And so, but if you are a mom, we love you and you are welcome here. This podcast is about something much bigger than mom versus dad. It's about exposing what really happens when a loving, involved parent is slowly pushed out of their child's life, and then they're blamed for it. So here we go. This is a topic that people don't like to talk about, which is most of our topics on the show, because the moment that you say sometimes a custody battle isn't about safety, sometimes it's actually not about the children. Sometimes it's about revenge. It's about jealousy. And people get uncomfortable. But the truth is, it happens more often than people want to admit. Many times when the relationship ends, the war begins. Most breakups hurt. Most divorces are messy. Two people who once cared about each other now have to separate their lives, divide time with their children, and rebuild something completely different. And that's hard for anybody. But for some people, the breakup doesn't just hurt their feelings, it wounds their ego. And when egos get involved, things start to change. Suddenly, the goal isn't co-parenting anymore. The goal becomes control. And instead of focusing on what the child needs, some people focus on what the other parent should lose. They should lose their time, their reputation, money, relationships, their peace, and sometimes even their identity as a parent. There's many times that a motivation is way more than what people want to admit. Sometimes the driving force behind the conflict is not fear. It isn't safety concerns. It's not protecting the kids. It isn't making sure that the children have a successful future. Sometimes it's jealousy. It's resentment. Sometimes it's anger that the relationship ended or that the other parent moved on. Sometimes it's the feeling that if I'm miserable, you're going to be miserable too. And when that mindset takes over, the children become the easiest weapon. Because children are the one thing that the other parent will always fight for. If you want to hurt them, that's where you strike. You use the children against them. And here's the thing. This kind of destruction rarely happens overnight. It's slow, it's calculated, layer by layer. First, it starts with small comments, little things said around the children. Your dad doesn't even care enough to come see you at every one of your events. Your dad chose work over you. Your dad doesn't want to help more financially when he makes more than I do. Your dad only wants you more so he doesn't have to pay as much in child support. Small seeds, tiny little doubts planted in a child's mind. Then it becomes interference. Schedule changes, last minute cancellations, making plans during the other parent's ordered time, withholding information, making communication almost impossible, turning every co parenting conversation into a fight. And then eventually it escalates. False accusations, court filings, protective orders, emergency hearings, allegations that suddenly appear the moment custody becomes contested. Problems that never existed somehow exist now because a parent requested to modify the parenting time. And the other parent on the receiving end is left trying to defend themselves against something they never imagined would happen. And the system has a blind spot. It's a part that frustrates so many families. The system often treats every accusation as if it came from a place of pure concern. Now, in many cases, that's appropriate. Real abuse exists. Real danger exists. Real protection is necessary. And we don't discount those very real situations. But the problem is when the system becomes so afraid of missing abuse, it stops questioning that there might be a possibility of manipulation in a lot of these cases. Because when someone is scorned and when someone is jealous, when someone is determined to punish the other parent, when someone will stop at nothing just so they can say they won and can't live with their mental state if they were to lose, they can become incredibly convincing. And the courts, evaluators, and attorneys, they see the conflict, but they don't always see the motivation behind it. So they label the situation something very convenient. We call it high conflict, as if both people are equally responsible, as if both people are behaving the same way, when sometimes they're not. And what happens to the children during all this? Well, while the adults are battling it out, the children are absorbing everything. Children are incredibly loyal, especially to the parent that they live with the most. So when they hear repeated messages, when they see constant tension, when they feel pressure to choose sides, they begin adapting. They start protecting the parent who appears most upset and most unstable. They start avoiding the parent who seems to cause the conflict because of what they were told by the other parent, even if that parent did nothing wrong. And slowly, without even realizing it, they begin rewriting their own relationship history with their parent. There's an emotional toll on the targeted parent, too. For the parent being pushed out, the experience is devastating. You show up to games where your child won't even look at you. You send texts that go unanswered. You make phone calls and realize you've been blocked. You sit in courtrooms defending yourself against things that never even happened. And then people around you, well, they start to question. Why doesn't your child want to see you? Why is there so much conflict? Did you actually do something? And that's when the damage spreads beyond the courtroom, because reputations start getting destroyed too. And sometimes the system doesn't stop it when they should. One of the hardest realities in these situations is this. Sometimes the system doesn't stop the destructive behavior quick enough. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes they allow parents to push off final hearings for numerous reasons. Years of hearings, years of evaluations, Years of missed birthdays, missed holidays, missed everyday moments that you never get back. And by the time things start to become clear, the damage to the parent child relationship can already be so deep. It can already be so broken, it's almost unfixable. But the truth, luckily, has a way of resurfacing. Many targeted parents eventually discover that children grow up, and when they do, they begin asking questions. They begin comparing stories. They begin noticing inconsistencies. And over time, many of them start realizing that the story they were told about by one parent was incomplete. It was manipulated, and sometimes it was completely false. Truth has a strange way of resurfacing, even when someone tries to bury it so deep. If we want family courts to truly protect children, we have to acknowledge something uncomfortable. Not every destructive custody battle is about safety. They are not all about abuse, and they are not all about neglect. Sometimes they're purely about revenge, and it's about jealousy, and it's about having to win. And systems that refuse to recognize that reality leave children caught in the middle of adult emotional warfare. Accountability matters. False allegations matter. Interference matters. Manipulation matters. And alienation matters. Because when those behaviors go unchecked, children don't just lose time with a parent, they lose an entire relationship. If you're a parent going through this right now, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not crazy for seeing what is happening around you. You are not weak for being exhausted from fighting it. You are not alone. There are thousands of parents fighting the exact same battle, trying to hold on to the relationship with their children while navigating a system that often moves painfully slow. But one thing remains true. Children deserve access to the full picture of who their parents really are, not the version shaped by anger, not the version shaped by jealousy, not the version shaped by revenge, not the version shaped by the fear of losing, the truth. And eventually, truth has a way of surviving because truth has a longer lifespan than lies.
Years, and he has a 16-year-old daughter. We are in litigation and we have been for 3 years, but this is also the fourth time. So for the majority of her life, they have been in litigation. And it's a little bit different when you're inside of it. Even as a woman, I experienced my own divorce differently than watching a man go through these things and thinking, well, I have my own two kids and they're boys. How can some of these things be right? When you see it and you think, I can't watch that happen. And, you go through false accusations, litigation abuse, litigious, you're constantly filing motion after motion. But watching the toll it takes on everybody, not just the people that are in it, but the people that are outside supporting it as well. And the kids also.
Yeah. Yeah. And the topic of our video was scorned exes and how so many times, we hear of these stories of actual abuse, right? There is actual abuse. There's actual
Mm-hmm.
neglect. There are some fathers that don't deserve to be fathers because they're abusive. There are some mothers that don't deserve to be mothers because they're abusive or they're neglectful.
Mm-hmm.
But then you hear about these stories where that's not really the case. There's not really actual abuse going on. There's not really neglect going on. The custody battle isn't about safety. It's about the scorned ex that just can't seem to move on, that can't lose, that's angry. And then it has this huge impact on the children and the rest of the new
Mm-hmm.
spouse, the family. And so I would say Was there ever a time that you realized going through this process that this wasn't just a difficult co-parenting situation, it was actually something that was intentionally becoming destructive?
I think the first time I noticed something was very early because I have my own children that are older, and I knew some of the things that have gone on in the past, and we can all talk about those things as well. But there was an event for the child, and we went to it, and I stepped back and I went, "What is that?" The behavior of the child, and you kind of talk about, some of that too is the ignoring you, the not talking to you, the stomping away, but then the behavior with the other side of the family versus what it looks like to when it's your side. And when you say that to some people, have you ever just gotten that look of, that's not really what happens, because they don't understand? But I think that was my first inkling of what's really going on in here. And it was probably within the first 6 months of meeting him that I was
Mhm.
like, oh, something truly is different.
Yeah. Is that hard watching somebody that you love going through this?
Absolutely, because you look at these men and you're like, they want to be fathers, and they're good fathers, and there's so many of them out there. This isn't about gender, it's about, personality disorders. But how could you think that doing that to him is okay, but let alone, that kid loves their parent deep down. That doesn't stop. You have to hide that because you have to align with that parent, because that love is conditional,
Mm.
Yep.
and you have to fly under the radar because you know what you're going to get. Where the other parent, and it may be the dad in that case, is stable and steady, and that parent's not.
Mm.
Hmm.
Do you ever feel like the system just expects you to be quiet because you're the step parent and not the biological parent?
1,000%. And I think that it doesn't hold weight when we say it. But my whole stance on a lot of it was, but I'm in it and I'm living it and I'm witnessing it. And so when the two stories align, why don't you take what I say for face value just because it's not my child? I'm telling you something. And we had a meeting with the guardian ad litem, and we had it back to back. So we didn't have time to get our stories straight. The questions weren't asked. I even brought something up, and I corroborated everything, but it still holds no weight, even though I'm telling you the exact same things. They just think, well, they don't matter. They don't have a say, but they'll bash you in court.
I
Right.
think we had
They
a
don't matter. Oh, sorry, Rachel.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it is ironic that they don't matter at all until it comes to court. And then they just want to bring up the other parent and everything wrong with them and everything they've ever done and said. All of a sudden, they matter a whole lot. And I think that's just so hypocritical and very ironic.
And you're right. And to piggyback off of that, but it's okay for the other person to have a significant other, and they leave that significant
Exactly.
other out. My double standards, I'm like, well, if it's good for one, it's good for the other.
Hmm.
Yep.
So, and that's kind of part of what we've experienced as well. So,
That's one of the things that we talked about on another episode is that the step parents don't really have any legal say so, right? They don't have any legal anything until they're brought into the court case,
Hmm.
until the ex is like, well, they're the problem. They're the one we need to get rid of. They're the issue, and then false allegations, not only are they against the father, then false allegations start getting brought against the new stepmom. And it's easier to attack both because now your story's stronger if you can attack the home in general.
and
Hmm.
I think that's what it is I'm going to attack those four walls. So in our experience, we didn't live together for a long time, and then we bought a home, moved in together. She was excited. All these things were great, and everything was well. And, she was at that in between age where you're in junior high, it's such an ugly age for kids and they're so awkward and they have all these things. And I can kind of bridge things between, dad and daughter, or, he did something and she'll come down and be like, well, dad just did this. I'm like, oh, I'll deal with it. And when mom recognized the positivity that was going on, it was almost in that moment that it all started to blow up and it all went really badly. I would do, pick up and drop off. I would help. Mom had COVID. I took her. I did. All of those things were okay. It was okay for me to pick her up until one
Mm.
day went to pick up and drop off in the middle of nowhere in a parking lot where there's 6 parking spots. And they pulled up and left one space in between me. And so I'm on Snapchat and I'm like, hey, let's go. What does mom do? Puts it in reverse and leaves.
Oh, yeah.
Said they didn't know it was me, but wouldn't let her get out of the car to come with me and then wouldn't answer and drove all the way home. So he had to leave work. I mean, it just made it this whole ugly situation. I thought, okay, maybe we need to sit down and have a conversation. So I was willing to do that. I went to dinner, just her and I thought we kind of smoothed it over. No, it was all a game.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
When
It's a
Yeah.
I
game.
think I think
Oh, 100%.
the new wife becomes the threat, especially if the children love them. If the children start to grow a strong bond with the step parent, stepdad or stepmom, whatever the situation is, then and want to be around them and want to do things like them and want to hang out with them and do special things with them too. And all of a sudden they're like, oh crap, they like them. I've got to cause chaos here. I got to mess something up. And so now we're not alienating just against the parent, we're also alienating against the step parent as well.
And
I
100% that's what happens.
right. I kind of have a little quick story. This girl I follow on Instagram, and she's the bio mom, and her, I think she's remarried, but also her ex-husband is remarried, and they've got children together. And she was saying the other day, my children's stepmom wanted, or they were going down to visit her family over the weekend. They live in a lake house and they wanted to take the girls with them to the lake house, but it was on my weekend. And so they called me and they asked if I could take the girls on our weekend because we're going to go down to, her parents' house. And the mom was like, and you know what I said? I said, absolutely. Absolutely. I want my girls to get to be around 2 extra sets of grandparents that love them, an extra mom that loves them, extra cousins that love them. Of course, I want them to be surrounded by people that love them. I would never take that away from them. I did not care that it was on my weekend. So I just wanted to give it up to her because that's how it should be. You, why
It
would you
should
not
be.
want, why would you not want the most people in the world to love your children? As many people as they can get on their side is what you want for your child, right?
It's hard enough. So if you love my kids, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
My children have a stepmom and my ex-husband had 2 kids with his current wife, and I think there was times where I would talk to her more than I would talk to him, or, can I take one of the boys to this concert for their birthday? And as long as you were good to my kids, I don't mind, because it's hard enough. I would rather them go over there and be okay than truly actually worry. And so in that point, are you're creating this false narrative of the unsafe household, or that person's not good, or that person has ill intent, but in your head you're not actually worried,
Yeah.
because it's okay, because there's never been truly anything that happens, but you have to make the perceive that this is happening in this way, and it's terrible that that's what we're doing. And then this kid's back and forth thinking, okay, something's wrong or I'm not safe, but yet I don't have any evidence to understand why I'm not safe, and my brain can't process those things.
No,
Right.
that's the challenge with it. I I made a video that's like it's starting to go viral, which is hilarious. And people are so, well, it's very 50-50. Like I have 50% of people are like, "Preach, girl, I've never heard it said better." And then 50% of people are like, "Blink twice if you're okay." Like, are you
Oh,
an idiot? You know? And I'm like, "No, I'm perfectly fine. Thank you." But one of the things I said in there is like, it's astonishing that sometimes these moms will make these false allegations of abuse or like help their kids file DCS reports that are fake, but they keep sending their kids to the house. And I'm going to tell you something. Like, if I really thought my children were being abused, you would have to arrest me for withholding them from their father because there is no way in hell I would let them anywhere around him. No way.
Right.
You would have to literally drag me kicking and screaming. But you have these moms that are like abuse, neglect, but oh yeah, I'm following the parenting plan because that's what the parenting plan says. And so sends them over there perfectly fine. Like, I'm going to send them over there because they have no proof. There's
Mhm.
absolutely no proof at all. They're just going to say all these fake things, but they don't follow the proper channels. They don't actually file real reports. They don't have real evidence. They don't have anything. And like you said, the kids are like, well, am I supposed to be scared of dad? Am I supposed to be uncomfortable in his house? Because I don't see why I am. Maybe I'm missing something, and it's like, if I
or you
there's
spin it to that. Yeah.
there's no way in hell I would let my kids go over if I really thought they were being abused. And the thing is, they know they're not being abused. They know they're not being neglected. They know they're being taken care of. They're trying to paint a false picture to alienate the kids away from them. That's all it is.
And they're just
And it,
contradicting themselves, you know? It's a huge contradiction.
But
the,
nobody follows up with it either. Like
No.
that's okay, but if a man made that accusation, like I truly believe that this is happening with my child, or in our case, when she was young, she took her to 4 different counties to coach her into saying that he had molested her. Right
Mm-mm.
then and there, dad should have the kid. But it's okay for our behavior to be that way. But if a man does that, you're going to have supervised visits. You're going to remove, and I think, what is it? 85% of false allegations are made on men anyways. And we just believe them. You're guilty until proven innocent. Always,
always.
Right.
And
always.
And then,
they get taken away until they can prove that they're innocent. And sometimes proving that they're innocent takes years.
Years.
mhm.
And that's just it. And so you've damaged that relationship. Now you further let the alienating behaviors happen. And at that point, sometimes, you know, I always say your perception is your reality. So at that point in time, then what is the implanted memory that that child probably actually believes but didn't happen? But if you say it enough, their minds work that way where they're going to start to believe that, even though it's not true
That
at all
lie.
and it didn't happen. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after your husband was debunked and there was absolutely no proof, no validity to it, none of the doctors came back and said they'd seen any evidence of anything. Tell me, please, what happened to the mom that put her sweet, precious child through that?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That's it's
I thought
sickening.
I thought that that was happening. I was worried. In whenever I hear the word like protective parent, I always put it into that situation, because to me, like, you want to look like you're the protective parent, but you're truly not protecting your child, because I would absolutely, it would be over my dead body that some of the things that go on when you're making those allegations happen, I would never put my child through. And so
No.
we're traumatizing these kids on top of it. And then what happens? Are we teaching them that it's okay later on, that if you don't like your husband later on in life, you too can do the same things?
Yep.
And
Right.
then what happens?
Well, it's abuse. Let's call it, first of all,
100%.
what it is. That is actual abuse. That's the abuse, right? So the
hmm
moms that claim sexual abuse and they force their children to go and have a rape kit done. And I mentioned this in another video. Like, I don't know if people understand what's involved in that, but it's uncomfortable for an adult, okay, let alone putting a child through that. And I believe if it is found, and in your case, multiple times, that the child was put through that, that is worse abuse. That is devastating abuse. And that mother should be charged with abuse herself. She should be charged with sexual abuse because she put her child through a sexual situation just to try to get the dad in trouble. And what blows my mind is I'm like, you know you're making this up. You know that this didn't happen, so you know that the results are going to be negative, but you are still allowing your child to go through this. And it's the same thing with litigation abuse. You know these stupid, whatever it is, he did something, I don't know, whatever the mom is claiming he did, and she drags him back to court. She knows that it's not true. She knows she's going to lose. She doesn't care, though, because she also knows that she just cost him a day of work. She just cost him another retaining fee. She just cost him more court costs. And in the end, even though she loses because there's no validity to it, she wins because she's just drained him emotionally, financially, psychologically. And that's part of the issue. And it's the same thing with like taking the kids to do these things. It's like, you know, you're going to lose. You know, the results are going to be negative, but you're doing it anyways because you're just out of control. You're bitter, you're scorned, you're broken, you're sick, and you're the one that's causing the abuse to the children and the abuse to the ex.
Right.
But there's no consequences in any of that. And that behavior, you know, but again, if the man was doing that, it would be immediately right away. But it's all of those things are used to, I guess the best way I could think of it and explain it is to get him to submit because you have to be the dominant one and you're in control. So now I've got you to the point where if you do have visitation with the child or you do have overnights or whatever that looks like when things start to come back, you're scared. You're not going to be close with the child. You're going to obey everything I say. You're going to answer me. I am going to interfere with your visitation and I'm going to interrupt every single thing I constantly can. Oh, you're not answering the phone because you're eating dinner? I'm calling the police. And I've lived that. Oh, you said no, that the child couldn't go ice skating? I'm calling the police. I mean, the police, they know me by first name, but all to have the control and the fear within it, and you're creating that PTSD, and that doesn't go away and that doesn't stop. But what does that also do to your child in the long run? Like how are they bottling up those emotions because they're so triangulated? And even though you might understand some of it because you get, you know, older in your adolescence, you're still aligning because it's just what feels right.
Right. Well, and those are the kids that have the most unhealthy relationships themselves as adults. They constantly fear that they're being watched or recorded. Those kids are the ones that develop paranoia issues. They develop severe detachment issues, anxiety, depression. And, you know, when those kids have to get tons of therapy, it's on that mom. And when they have failed relationships, it's on that mom. And when they go through abuse, real abuse, because they don't know how to see red flags in men, it's on that mom. And
Right.
she's going to have to live with it one day.
But do you ever think about it this way? Like when you look at, you know, manifestations of the alienating parent, things like that, when you really dive into some of that behavior, a lot of it ties into a personality disorder. And we can, when we're all done in litigation at some point, I can give you all that info too. But it really does tie into narcissism, and borderline personality disorder are typically the majority of the parents that are doing it, male or female.
Male or female, yeah.
And it does it aligns perfectly. That personality type and those manifestations, just that's all you need to do, and you're like, oh, now I understand. But that behavior of it, and just it's it's like the energy to do all of these things for the amount of time that you're doing it, you could be putting into something else, or you could be putting money into something else. But instead, you are honed in on something for so long that you'll never stop.
It's because they
And it
can't
just,
lose. A narcissist cannot lose.
and you're right. And you just think maybe somebody's going to get exhausted because you're like, I'm exhausted watching it sometimes, but you just don't understand it until I think you're in it. And especially like men that
Mhm.
are going through that situation, or kids, it's just, it makes you wonder, like, what happens after these kids age out? What does that look like? I know it doesn't stop, because I know somebody that's was taken back to court after the kid turned 18 even. It's like, whatever you can do to cause disruption, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And it
Tell us
can't,
about,
this cannot,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, I
Go
keep wanting to add a comment. This, like you said, this clearly cannot be a normal person's behavior. It's not, because there are some beautiful relationships, Rachel having one with her ex-husband, where this
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen. So again, I know Rachel likes to reiterate this over and over. This isn't every case. This isn't every person out there that's listening to this. We're not talking about every husband and every wife and every court custody. We're talking about a very specific type of person that is putting another human being through these things, and it can only come from, I'm sorry to say, a disorder, a mental disorder, because who in a normal right mind would put anyone through something like this? And so those are the people we're speaking on, and I also just wanted to reiterate,
hmm
there are real children that do get abused, and I wouldn't ever want someone to shy away from going and making sure that that child gets checked. I I
No.
want us to make sure we make that line clear, what we're talking about. And Rachel,
Yeah.
you're a nurse. You say something on that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, no, I am. I'm a nurse and I used to work in the emergency room, and that was something that we saw all the time. And so, again, I do, and I said it in my intro, I made sure to say we are not discounting real abuse, real
Mm-mm.
assault, real neglect. It does happen. It happens from men, it happens from women. And we see it. We see it all the time. So those situations, yeah, don't be afraid. If it's really happening, you need to report it. If it's really happening, you need to get it checked out, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But we also saw, even in the emergency room, I saw false charges all the time. We saw people bring in their children and say they were abused
That's so
just
sad.
to cause issues. We had to call DCS constantly, not against not against the person that they were accusing. We had to cause it against the person bringing the child in, because we could see straight through it that they were the
Mm-hmm.
abuser. Um, and so yeah, it's horrific. And I agree with what you said, and I'm glad you said that. Not all moms are horrible, and I'll toot my own horn. I'm one of them. Like, I have the most incredible relationship with my ex-husband. The most beautiful relationship with him. We have three gorgeous, successful daughters, and 100% they are successful because of our ability to properly co parent, our ability to communicate, our ability to respect each other. We do 50-50 custody because children need their father just as much as they need their mother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, if he was abusive, would I keep them away from him and fight like hell? Heck yeah, I would. If I was abusive, would he fight like hell? Heck yeah, he would. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about two parents that stood up for their children, that knew what was best for them, that decided we're going to pick our kids over winning. And that's part of that personality disorder that
hmm
you're talking about. And we learned that. I learned that in psych. I was also a psych nurse for years. And these types of personality disorders have to win at all cost, at the cost of their children, at the cost of their family, and at the cost of their own sanity. They will literally exhaust themselves to the point of mental breakdowns, severe anxiety, severe depression, spending days in bed, not even being able to cope with their own life, not even being able to take care of their children that they have primary custody of because they are trying so hard to win against the father. That's a
Mm-hmm.
problem. That's a
That's a
sickness.
problem.
It is.
And it's
I've always said that that kind of goes into you hate your ex more than you'll ever love your child
mm,
because you don't really understand true love. I'm not saying that they don't love their kids because they probably do, but
yeah.
I think when you live it and you look at it and you watch it, you see the difference between like how you and I may love our children and how we work with that other parent versus I'm just got this thing that I can dangle in front of you and I hate you so much that that's all I can see, that I don't love my kid enough to do the right thing for them. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's it's a sickness. It is.
Mhm.
And it's
I think you nailed it on the head. They hate their ex more than they love their children. That's an explanation I can see, you know.
yeah.
Because it's so simple, but it doesn't make sense, I think
No.
sometimes, because you think how can that truly be how we feel or we behave? Because I would never do that to my kid. You know, you just would never think that way. But like I said, when you tell people your story or you have conversations about different behaviors or when you talk about, you know, being in that world of, you know, alienation or high conflict custody battles, people look at you like you're crazy sometimes. Like, and you're like, never mind. I'm just going to say nothing.
No.
But it
Yeah.
happens all the time. And I think people are waking up to some of the behaviors. And I'm glad that people are speaking out about it because it's not right. You know, we have men in prison innocently because women are making those false accusations just to keep their children away from them.
It's unreal. It's
Mm-hmm.
unreal. So let's talk about that real quick. There are so many people that are going through this, right? And there are finally people starting to speak out against it, right? There's so many groups. I'm a part of, I don't even know how many Facebook groups now about parental alienation. Children that have grown up now, that are adults, that are like, yeah, I woke up and I realized what my mom was doing to me, separating me from my father. I woke up and I realized what my dad was doing, separating me from my mother. You know, there's adults that finally it just clicked. I'm in all these, you know, father's rights movement
Yep.
groups and shared parenting movement groups. But for the parents out there that are going through this, there's some really good resources. And one of them is one that you were talking to me about before we started. That is a conference that you're able to go to. You can listen to it. So, can you share that just a little bit? Tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, and those groups are really great as well on Facebook, and you know I'm a part of a lot of those, and I interact and things like that. But PASG is Parental Alienation Study Group. William Burnett is one of the founders, so if you really get deep into that stuff, you'll start to recognize people. But they have this great panel of resources of men and women that have been studying it. It's their whole life. The website has great resources. They have articles and publications, but they also do a conference once a year. Usually one time it's international and the next time it's stateside. It's a great way to connect with parents that are experiencing some of the same things that you are, but it's also some continuing education for judges, lawyers, and therapists. So it's kind of a mix of all different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can listen to whichever, you know, meeting that they're talking about. They kind of separate things out. So I was able to go to Toronto in September with one of my friends. You know, Robert Garza was there, so I was able to connect with him and
I love Robert.
Lincoln. Yeah, there's some. I love him. So there's some great, you know, some great things there. And it was almost like you're starstruck when you meet all of these people. And Alan Blackie was there, which he's actually involved with our litigation and things like that. But there are some truly great people that understand it and can speak to it so great that they're just great people to listen to. Even if you just go to YouTube and watch them or Google their names, or you can watch some of the videos on the website for them as well. But it's another space that people can go and really get that in-depth understanding
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, that's published and not just somebody talking about it themselves. So
Right.
it's
Right.
I recommend checking it out. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so for closing, I would ask one thing or two questions, sorry. I always say I have
Okay.
one and then I realize there's two I want
We
to
like
ask.
to.
Okay. So, what would you say to other stepmoms or spouses that are going through this type of situation, dealing with a scorned ex, false allegations, alienation, all these things? What would you say to them that when they're feeling powerless to help them just stay the course?
And it's not always favored, but sometimes you have to step back for a little bit. I sometimes have to go sit on my closet floor because I know I'm going to react and it's hard. And I know that in my house, she's seen me react a couple of times and not badly, but I'm just like, oh, I think it's that taking a step back for a moment and thinking about it differently, which is not always easy because we get very emotional and
Yeah.
especially when you watch it all that time. But I think speaking out about it and being there and confirming with them, because I think your spouse is like, I'm people don't believe me. And so you don't have that support system. So I think part of that as well, but just really knowing that at the end of the day, like what you have to say matters just as much because we're living it as well and we're victims of it. And maybe not everybody is, but I've been a victim of it just as much as he has.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last one, if your stepdaughter one day as an adult could see the full truth, what would you want her to understand about her father that she needed to know about him that I think we lost Kara.
I think so, yeah.
Um, what is one thing that you would want her to know? What truth would you want her to know about her dad looking back one day?
That you never gave up.
Mm,
And I know some do, and it's finances, but I think when you look at it and when we talk about men, like they have feelings too, but like they want to be dads also.
yeah.
And we can't discredit that. And your dad was robbed of all of that.
Hmm.
He'll never get it back. And there are so many men that won't. But even if they're not actively doing something because they can't afford to, like he just didn't stop.
He never gave up. Yeah.
Nope.
That's
Nope.
awesome. Well, Nicole, I am so thankful that you were on
Yeah.
today and I really appreciate it. I'm excited we've got Robert is coming on soon and I've got
I
some,
love that. You're gonna love him. He's so great.
I know I'm so excited. I have not gotten to talk to him, face to face like this. So I'm super excited to have him on. We had Mark Ludwig on the other day
Yeah.
and Dan Modern and Ryan Powell. I mean, we've just had some
I love
wonderful,
him. He's so funny.
yeah, we've had some
Yeah.
really, really great people on. And so I'm so excited to just keep going and having an outlet for parents that are going through this and to know that like there is support. They're not alone. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and talking with us. And to everybody out there listening, thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with us to the end. And make sure you share and follow and subscribe. And that way other parents know that they have support as well. So any last things, Nicole?
I don't think so. I'm so glad that I found you and that we connected. This was awesome.
Me too. Well, thanks so much. We will talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.